sure. That'll be the opening clip.
I really don't care. Let's fucking say it.
Whitney just had the Haktua girl on, and they called Matt Rife.
She's actually crushing her 15 minutes, though.
Like, she's an American hero.
She said she spit on a dick and they're bringing her up on concerts like she's a cancer kid.
Jesus Christ, dude. Have you ever seen the video where the guy shows Ladyboy's American trans men? And they're like, oh, it's like they're not even trying.
Like a sprinter today that was all over X. Full package on display, ran as a man until 45, is now like 50-something, decided to run as a woman.
Can you imagine trying to hide a cock in the Special Olympics?
Not even trying. No, you can see it.
But I think we need to bring back the Italian mob, as I've said many times.
And tell all your other queer friends they can do whatever they want at the bars. The elementary schools are off limits. Everyone's a victim!
On this special episode.
Was that on camera?
Yeah, we're gonna keep that for sure. That'll be the opening clip.
Not do that.
I would
Aggressive.
I would love it if you did that, regardless if they know what we're talking about or not.
Bro.
Not even the threat, just the actual.
I really don't care. Let's fucking say it. You imagine how many views I'd get if I just beat this shit out of everybody on Kill Tony, like went up there for my 1 minute and just took it as like, all right, motherfuckers, before you say anything, look at how close I am to you, how big I am, and how many views I will get for coming across the table.
That's Matt Rife's got $1 million chin, though. You gotta be real careful.
Is it insured?
I'm sure it's gotta be insured.
$1 million chin?
Yeah, more than that.
That's just in the executive cum that's fucking drawn onto it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know anything about that.
Do you find him pretty or
Who?
attractive, Matt Rife?
You know what's funny is that I said that
Yes.
Dane Cook's. No, I don't. But I said Dane Cook's comedy sucked a long time ago on Twitter when I had like 200 followers. And then I had a naked Avi at the time, and so he retweeted it, and it was like how I got the beginning of my Twitter addiction. Because I got tons of followers from people. I was like, you know what? Your comedy sucks, asshole. How about that? And I was saying it in like a Rhode Island tone. I was like, aren't we we massholes here? And it was like days of people telling me that bad grammar, all of his audience coming after me, telling me that I sucked. And one of those people.
Giving you the double finger.
One of those people is Matt Rife. Somebody
Get out.
pointed it out. Yeah. On his old Twitter.
Matt Rife wanted to be Dane Cook?
He said something like, I can't remember. I still have it. I still have the screenshot of the tweet because I saved all these screenshots, and someone's like, "Oh, look, that's Matt Rife's old Twitter account that apparently he's like blown up." Yeah, and it's him talking shit to me, and I never even noticed it.
That's hysterical.
That's really funny. All my old stuff is just going to be me being a domestic terrorist. So, like, fuck. Well, that's interesting.
So
hey,
to answer your question.
manifest, you know? Like, fucking see it, dream it, be it.
I met him. He was very nice every time I've met him. And then he also.
I like to book you, Dave.
I don't want to. What am I gonna do? Bury him?
Different audiences, different fan bases.
You gonna flirt with him the whole time?
Yeah. I have no interest. Yeah, I just. Oh, hey, what's up, buddy?
Oh, you think you're good enough to be with me?
Can I touch your abs?
Is he TikTok famous? Is that the thing?
He is like Dane Cook is like definitely a parallel. Like he did with TikTok what Dane did with MySpace for
Oh,
sure.
interesting.
Yeah, I worked with him at the Comedy Store like a year and a half ago, and I thought he was just a kid, and I didn't, whatever, just some open micer. And then he walked out, and there was like early 20s girls going ape shit, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then the other half were in Louder with Crowder shirts, so they were just like, obese.
the two forces. It's like that picture in the ocean when, like, you know, where the fresh water meets the salt water. One's brown and one's clear. Right. We just followed him at me and Caroline were at Kansas City Funny Bone the weekend after he was there, and there was crazy stories. We were like kind of almost like bragging a little bit. We're like, you ever seen a meet and greet line this big? They were like, we had Matt Rife last weekend. I'm like, oh. They were like, women legitimately showed up without a ticket in wedding dresses.
No way.
Yes.
See, I don't get it. I don't like my men pretty. Like he's like really pretty and like femme, and I just don't. I'm not attracted to men like that. I see it, and I just.
Did you see Whitney had him on her had
Your
the
husband is a
hot
very
tour
pretty
girl
man.
on?
Not like that.
Yeah,
He's
really?
still he has like a beard and he's not like that. He is pretty, but he's not like that pretty.
He looks like Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He really does.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to fuck my wife.
Well, I didn't say
Weird. This is like a sea of emotions.
This
I
just
never
got
said I
awkward.
didn't.
Whitney just had the hot tour girl on, and they called Matt Rife.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, I am blushing right now because there's like all this chemistry between these two internet phenomenons.
Yeah.
And Haley was kind of like losing it. The hot tour.
She's
girl.
actually crushing her 15 minutes, though. I think she's doing a really good job. And some of the stuff that comes out of her mouth on podcasts, I'm like, that's gold. That's really gold.
The first thing she said
She's
to
using
Matt
charity.
was like,
She's doing a lot for charity too.
Oh,
yeah.
Stuff to save the dogs. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, man. Suck dick, get famous, save dogs. I'm all for it. Everything she did, I'm into.
this is what I said about her. I was like, she's an American hero.
Oh.
We should be applauding that you can do this in America.
What you could never do that in Fallujah.
No.
There's no way.
She said she spit on a dick, and they're bringing her up on concerts like she's a cancer kid.
Could never happen in Afghanistan, bud.
No, that's what
God
I
bless
mean. Like,
America. The good
you gotta
old
think it's
USA.
pretty amazing.
Couldn't even happen in France, I don't think.
Definitely not anymore.
Well, not in France. They're not impressed.
Yeah.
They're the ones that showed the World War II soldiers that came back here and were like, you know what French girls do?
Yeah, it's called a French kiss.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things you can do now that I've been over in France.
Yeah, showed me this.
Yes.
When
More than just
I was in
laying
the
there.
bunker. Well, I guess we should probably introduce the show that we're doing here at some point today. As you know, I'm the great Gerard Michaels. The great Gerard Michaels, that's trademarked. And this is going to be a kind of a crossover episode. It's not really a Canceled Weekly. Hi, Mickey. You're here with us in spirit. But the great Candice Horbacz of Chatting with Candice and me, we're like scissoring here. This is a scissor.
Our schedules keep overlapping. It's so weird. Every time we're in Texas, we're here at the same time, and it's either Austin or Dallas, and it's not planned. It's so interesting.
It is weird.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
He's got a tracker on me.
Yeah.
He's like one of those Apple trackers.
Oh, weird. That's weird.
It's strange you're here. You're just texting from a plane.
Oh, you're going to Alaska? I'm going to Alaska. How crazy is
It
that?
was cute how you're pretending you didn't know her how she liked her coffee in front of me.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I didn't know because you never know. Like
Switch it
it's
up.
like
We're not predictable creatures.
we're not.
No.
No, I mean
That's true.
You pretty much are, but like she's also a witch though. She's a bruja.
I am. I take pride in that. But you have the different cycles, and I swear I'm a different person depending on where I am in my cycle.
Yeah, that's called being Latino.
It's called being a woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Latino,
No, I just think it's moody.
moody.
No offense.
No, I don't take offense because I am. But I think like if you share that with your partner, it's gonna make everyone's life easier. So there was this.
I feel like I'm
clip.
a different person every day.
Well, like the phase that you're in. So there was this guy, and it was like it was adorable because he really had no idea what anything was when it came to like the female cycle. And he's like, so I asked this girl out on a date, and she said we couldn't because she was in her luteal phase. And when she's out of her luteal phase, then we can go on a date. But I don't know what a luteal phase is. And everyone's like, this is a good sign because she wants to show up as her best self, and her luteal self is going to be like moody and depressed and just low energy. And he had no idea. And I think for a long time, like the feminist movement made it to a point where we can do anything bleeding and just as strong as a man or whatever, right? Like all these commercials that we had. So we're denying the fluidity of what it is to be a woman. And then we get called crazy instead of just like leaning into no, like hormones have an actual effect on everything.
Yeah.
So if I just let you know I'm in this phase, then maybe you'll offer me more grace, and then I'll do things and take time so that I'm not like reacting.
Go to the red tent.
Okay.
It's so,
Sit in your red tent,
You're
bitch.
dirty.
and this is why we work so well together, because she watched that video and came away with that positive outlook, like, oh wow, that's really good. She wants to
And
see
you
her
were
as her
like,
best self.
he's a bitch.
And I looked at that video and go, just every day I wake up, please make me fucking gay. Like every day I wake up going, today's the day I'm gonna be gay, and I don't.
You
have to
can
put up
make
with
it
these
happen.
bitches. No, you can't. Like you can do gay things.
You
but
gotta
can't
work
be
for it.
gay. Like I'm like,
Exposure therapy.
oh,
Like the
man.
opposite of pray the gay
Yeah,
way.
it's I'm like, oh,
You ever been in a
I'm
Turkish
staring
prison?
at Matt Rife pictures like, just do something, man.
Have you ever read-
Just give me a little tingle or something.
But I would just assume that, like, if somebody said that, I'd be like, so you have an STD or you're on the rag? What are you trying to say? Like, a guy's mind is so basic in that I'm surprised that we could even grasp that.
Well, they're just finding out now about how hormones affect weight loss. Like in 2024, they're just starting to because they only really looked at weight loss with men, and so they applied it to women, and now they're like, oh, all these other hormones affect, and where you are in like whether you're perimenopause or postmenopause, it all affects how you lose weight.
It's nice they finally geared it towards the people who are known for eating disorders and having body shaming problems.
Well, the reason
we got an idea for you too now.
Yeah.
That
You're gaining weight. Have you ever thought maybe you're just a dude?
Yeah.
Here's some more testosterone. That'll help.
You're losing hair from malnutrition and vomiting, and it's like, we did some extra research. We thought to help you.
Dudes.
So for those that don't know, the people that are
Sorry,
living under a rock, these are the siren sounds of our guests today. We are absolutely blessed to have two amazing guests. This is Dave Landau of Normal World on The Blaze and on YouTube, just headlined at the Mothership here in Austin, Texas. And on the same show was British. I keep saying British Phetasy. It's so hard for me not to say British. I said it 15 times. Bridget Phetasy. And also on the same show, you guys both crushed it. It was amazing. So this is the Chiron Don, where people will find them.
This is also kind of a crossover because I have Dumpster Fire and he does Normal World, and it's like the crossover of our shows as well.
This is like the fucking Transformers. What was that one where Captain Planet comes when the black, the queer, the Asian, they all put their hands in the middle.
Yeah, and then they ruin the society.
Yeah. Our powers combined, we can make cars unaffordable.
We're gonna ruin a neighborhood.
With our Captain Planet, he mines lithium.
It's actually worse for the environment. Kids are doing it.
If you're gonna have slavery, at least have slavery that helps carbon footprints, right, guys?
Yeah, that's what I've always said.
We're helping things.
That's why you don't turn on the radiator they're handcuffed to.
That's just the lady boys.
Some energy. Yeah, that's just
that's the lady boys.
That's just the ones that are taken. Anyway, going on. Sorry.
So wait, I gotta tell the story. I was with Dave.
About a lady boy?
I was with Dave. The ones that are taken.
Where are we going with this?
I was with Dave.
He's talking about Matt Rife, and we're tag teaming a lady boy. He's trying to dip his toe into the pond.
Have you ever seen the video where the guy shows ladyboys American trans men and they're like, oh, it's like they're not even trying. So I was with Dave in Jacksonville. And the Jacksonville Comedy Zone, it's a great club, and it's in a Ramada.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's still like a lot of Katrina families that live there or something. I don't know.
Yes.
And he's on stage, and it's so loud. There's a cookout going on around the pool, and there's just kids screaming. And in one of his awkward silences, when people are trying to find whether or not they should laugh or call the cops on one of his jokes, a kid starts screaming, and he just out of nowhere, and this is during the opening weekend of the movie, he goes, oh, that's just the sound of freedom. And in the back of the room, we were like, what? He goes, it's better if we don't ask. I'm like, oh my God almighty. This is the most but the timing of it, with these kids screaming in the back.
Because it was like painful screaming.
How do you get your brain to be so quick and pull?
He's
It's
a
a
genius.
superpower to
No,
me.
thank
It
you.
really
Trauma
is.
or
It's trauma. Oh, yeah.
some people get CTE. He gets,
No, it's incredible. Like,
Thank
I
you.
get
Just
blown
a
away.
genius.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You know what
Thank
I
you.
also thought was awesome is when you were on Rogan is like how much you were just like hyping him up, and I just thought that was so beautiful because there's so much competition with everything, and it's so rare that you see someone that is just like really excited for someone else, and I just thought that was great. I loved
thanks.
that.
I mean, I also think
No, I
that
agree.
there are
No, it meant the world to me. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
Thanks. No, I think there's a lot of comedians, and I think Dave is like probably one of the most underrated comedians that people don't know about, and it's always like strange to me because as someone who watches a lot of comedians don't even really watch other comedians, but I love watching comedy, and just watching the audience for like 5 nights straight. I love being up in those balconies at Mothership because you can see the audience like physically doubling over. You know, I've seen a lot of comedians perform there, and it's like people laugh, but to see them physically reacting with their whole body, that is like, it is a gift. It's truly what you give those people other than shock and awe. and I love when they groan too, but it's like they're groaning laughing. It's I don't know. It's there's been a couple of comedians who I've seen do that. Most of them are dead.
Give it time.
Don't put that out there because they're all tortured. And I don't know. It's just like that's a gift you're giving, and to be able to do that, 2 hours in a night, and then the next night, and then the following night, and it's always changing his set. Being able to jump in and out of talking to the crowd and not, incorporating it. You have that thing right now that should be going viral of the drunk lady.
It's so good.
That is posted. Yeah.
I'm like, put out 2 and 3 right now, please. Because make it a series.
Yeah, I think I said pussy in it, so Instagram's like, we're not putting this out.
They're so
One thing you
lame.
got to do going forward is you got to get a camera behind you to get audience reaction, because
That's
I
a good
think
idea.
part of being at his show is like, it's obviously your jokes are funny. Like, you're like if Ted came to life, you're like the teddy bear that tells these insane jokes on stage, man. So, but it's the audience reaction. I mean it as a compliment. I don't know if it came out that
No,
way.
it did. It did. It was just funny.
Like, he comes out on stage, Matt's 6'8", he brings it down, looks at the cut, and goes, "I got a big cock." So
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
It's your Ted. I'm looking at Ted. So.
Because, Matt always forgets. Dwarf.
But it's the audience reaction as people look around going, "I want to laugh, but is everybody else laughing? Am I the only one that gets the pedophile joke?" Like, it's so funny, dude.
That's why I try to do like 7 in a row.
Yeah, but the best is that the people in the front are usually the ones who are dying, and they don't have the benefit of seeing anyone in front of them laughing.
Yeah.
And they're the ones. It's weird too in that stage. I always notice the people who are right under where the green room balcony is. I don't know if it's like the positioning or something. They seem to, or if they're looking at you sideways, they always seem the most subdued of everyone in the whole place.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like dying, but along the side and that back, it just.
So the VIP where we were next to it is the green room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was yelling at y'all motherfuckers to shut up. I was like, shh.
Oh, I don't blame you. You should have.
I don't know what the hell was going on over there.
Yeah.
We're gonna come over there and crack some fucking skulls.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Why do you think, in all sincerity, you've been on TV? You were on Kumia forever.
Yeah.
Crowder. Anybody that knows you and has seen you knows you're one of the top 10 working comedians today. But to
really
your
nice.
point, the general public is like, who? So
Thank you.
What a compliment.
So why do you think that is, bro? Like, why do you think when in the
sandwich.
beginning of this,
Yeah.
it's the truth, because
No, it is,
I sit and look up to a guy like this, and I aspire to be to a guy like this, and I'm like,
And then you're like, maybe not.
what the fuck is
Maybe
going
I
on
should
here?
just go on TikTok.
maybe I should lose 50 pounds and put on blush like Matt Rife, so
I've been doing a lot of push-ups and kegels.
just in case. Why do you think that you've kind of almost flown under the radar, even though you've been on with the biggest guys in the world, man? I mean,
I don't know. Like, it's a lot of like what you just said about her. She's the first person really who ever even brought me up on Rogan, who was already having me on his club, and like talked to me, like built me up. Another comic that actually helped. Mm-hmm. Like, you were a comic that helps, and I think me as a comic that helps other people too. Mm-hmm. And it's not even like a help thing. It's just, I think you should care about each other instead of like be stabbing each other in the back.
yeah, rising tide lifts all ships, for sure.
Yeah, and I've never, and it was amazing that she did that, like, because nobody does that. Mm-hmm. Like, and I've been such a fan of her that I was like shocked that she had a high opinion of me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it might be my own psyche. Maybe I'm my own worst enemy. Maybe I push myself out of the way. Maybe other people see me as competition,
Nobody
so
puts
they don't
Baby
want
in
to
the
help.
corner.
Nobody puts Davey in the corner.
Nobody puts Davey in the corner. Well,
but
it's
it's
funny,
hard
though.
to break down. Like, I don't know, because I've had a lot of opportunities.
No,
And you get
sorry to
pigeonholed
interrupt.
as like a right-wing dude, and you're not like a right-wing dude. Even though like I am, I'm all right with it. But I mean, like, for some reason, you get pigeonholed in this like.
Well, being on the Blaze obviously kind of extends itself
Yeah.
to that. But what I think is interesting about the Blaze is, I said last night, how do you have a job at the Blaze? Like, do they know what you're doing when you're not there?
They know.
Do they know?
Glenn Beck
And
ever
then-
heard the headmaster
and then-
bit?
Right, and then I've been there
No.
like a handful of times. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's this weird transition when it comes to like the conservatives or even like the Republicans, because I feel like they're slightly different.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be more welcoming and like open to whoever is supporting like the foundations of like freedom.
No, that's a very good point. And this is kind of what kills me in the comedy community is like, what do you call them, conservatives or whatever, just anti-woke people. Very open to having left-wing voices like on their shows, very open to having left-wing people like even tour with them. But the left, it's been my experience, I don't know if you guys feel differently, they shut you out completely. As soon as you're off message, clubs just stop answering email. Like, dude, I came up in New York comedy doing 5 shows a night. I can't get booked in New York. You know, like I can rent my own theater. I can go out to the Stress Factory, but like getting up at New York Comedy Club, it's like an impossibility. I can't work for free.
Well, yeah, some places they definitely are starting to switch because money is money, and that will never change.
Yeah.
So if you start selling tickets, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But even when I didn't mean like that. I meant anyone. I meant anybody.
Do I look like Ted now, motherfucker?
Don't worry. That's not what I meant. Look, I was selling out theaters for a hot 6 months, and then that roller coaster went down. But no, I think that it just comes down to like money in that case. But you are right. Like everybody who I lost as a friend were never my friends, and they were comics that were in the business who were all liberal across the board, extreme liberals. And it was because first I was on Artie and Anthony. And people were a little jealous, so I started losing friends because of that. And then once I got on Crowder, people were just pissed that I was on something that was big and that it was right wing and there was stuff that being said. So I lost so many friends in comedy almost instantly. People that I had helped get work and helped get into clubs, and oddly, none of the ones that you would assume, but like the White Knights and that sort of thing. So it's like I completely got stabbed by all those people. And like so it's hard to say like if I'm even conservative or left wing. I feel like I have a lot of liberal ideology as well as right wing ideology, but I'm not supported by that part of the community, and there's the insecurity of that part of the community as well, where I just don't think a lot of people will help you.
Yeah. I think you're a 90s Democrat, which is a 2024 Nazi.
Yes.
So
that's what.
That's where I land.
that's where you're at. A couple Nazis over here.
It's funny too, like there's always this talk about how like women are very competitive and women in the comedy are competitive, and I'm like, men are too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're just a little bit shadier about it.
Though, most men in comedy are women. They're in their feminine, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, it should be a team sport, but it's like a lot of individuals, and it's not the things even necessarily that they say in front of your face or in the green room. It's what they do after, you know. And I really don't, for the most part, I don't really enjoy the quote unquote comedy community. I like comedy in that I get to do cool stuff like this, and that it affords me the opportunity. But comedy is very much like a chore to me. It's like something I have to do the things that I actually want to do.
I will say though, Austin, because I was in LA. And then I had a similar experience to Davey in the corner over there.
That's me.
But it was different because I was at Playboy, and I wrote this column right after Trump got elected that Donald Trump is already making America great again. I was still shilling for the left in this column, but just the headline alone, it was right after the inauguration. It was too soon. It was 2016, and I lost a lot of friends. It's still. And people in comedy, and one of the things I was talking about last night is that I'm mad at myself because I allowed it to kind of scare me off stage. I didn't want to be around like people who I loved and supported and I thought were my friends were unfollowing me or blocking me, and I'm like, I see you in green rooms. It was hurtful, and I didn't know how to handle it at all because I was like, I thought comedy just was like we were in the trenches together. So I was mistaken in thinking that that was something that united us all, and I also just assumed that we were working for the joke. Like I didn't think that there was anything, not like some ideology that we needed to push. So that was unsettling to me. And
it changed, right? I mean, I think you're really onto something there too. If I had started comedy 3 years later, I would have quit immediately. Like something happened in 2015 with the Trump campaign that just broke comedians' brains.
Yeah, and at that point I was only like 4 years in.
It broke people in
5 years.
LA.
5 years in.
And your Twitter is phenomenal. Your Twitter is
Thank you.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah,
unbelievably good.
Yeah.
But there's something, and I kind of felt the same way. And I saw, well, since we're name dropping all over this episode, there was Andrew. I had just gotten passed at a club, and Andrew Schultz he wasn't Andrew Schultz yet, but he was a house comedian, right? So there's this thing called, getting passed in a club. It's not really a thing anymore. But
I am the only non-comedian here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
my art form is different.
You know how you like to say, like, I'm a contract girl?
Yeah.
That's what getting passed in a club is. It's like, no. I'm one of the past comedians here.
Okay.
Like, I get booked, Yeah.
So you get paid.
Yeah, it used to be like,
you get paid.
yeah, $25 a set. Yeah.
They're
But
like,
it's like,
excuse me, those chairs are mine. I'm getting $25 for this set.
Yeah.
it's a whole knighting process. You pass an audition, you get on your knees, the club comes up and taps you on your shoulders, and
Parking was 80.
I'm doing 4 sets a night for $25 and drinking $250 worth of booze. Yeah.
Are we talking about the Comedy Store? 'Cause that's basically what it was.
Yeah. So when you're like a past comic, you're doing multiple shows at the club, so you're like hanging out in the green room, right? And then this booker comes in. First of all, Me Too changed everything in New York. Like every booker became a blue-haired woman overnight.
Well, because all the bookers were fucking Me Too.
Well, there is something to it.
That's...
When I first started in comedy, like, it was a party.
Me Too
it was a
changed
frat
it all.
house, man. Yeah.
You couldn't rape anybody anymore.
You couldn't make any girl suck your dick for stage time after that.
That whole power shift.
Bullshit.
That's why I'm not
we used to be
anywhere.
a proper country, guys. Look what
You
they've
used to
done
have
to
to
us.
suck a man's dick to get on stage. What happened to this America?
Now you got
We're
to
done
work.
talking about Matt Rife. All right, so
Now you got to work for it. What a
but there was the point I'm making, guys.
What happened to the America that I know and love, where a woman
What
can't
happened
get
to
on her
America?
knees for anything?
Look what they've done to us. We shall overcome.
Where's the land I knew as a boy, where you could suck a dick for fame?
Now you just have to allude to spitting on one, and you can. Have
Now
a
you're
name.
famous.
Now you're famous.
Meanwhile, Corey Haim's sitting in an early grave.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Sorry. I'll be over. I'll stay in my corner.
Maybe we did find out why you're still in that corner.
Yeah, there's too much darkness.
The point I'm trying to make is that it was a lot of fun in the beginning, and it didn't really matter whether you were liberal, conservative. Just like you were
Raping, not
funny.
raping.
Yeah, it didn't matter if you were.
And the only way two Corys can keep a secret is if both of them are dead.
Jesus Christ.
Still got one running around
He's just out
blabbing.
and he's choreographing around with Limp Bizkit. You got to get Corey Feldman on normal. You have to get
I
normal.
went to his concert in hopes of getting him because he was going to do it, but then he backed out.
That's what happened with me too.
Really? Yeah.
We talked for a minute.
You were
and-
supposed to do Corey Feldman?
Yeah, we have him on mine. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
and then he just ghosted.
So we showed up, and I dressed as him in Lost Boys with the do-rag and with the Rambo bandana, and Angela dressed like an angel, and Garrett dressed like him in the Burbs, and we showed up, and we were doing everything we could to get his attention. And then watching the show, I felt very bad for him.
Did you not think of dressing as Michael Jackson and just having him come to you?
I thought about just putting a halo over my head and looking enough like Corey, the other Corey, that he would think that it was him.
You could have dressed like Charlie Sheen and had him run into a trap. And
Oh,
then
that's
caught him.
true. If I just dressed up like a tub of Crisco.
You just dress up like a thing of KY and Harvey Weinstein's couch at the Four Stevens.
Four Stevens was the name of the producers. The Four Seasons was the. No, we went because I seriously want to interview him because I loved him as a kid. Like Stand By Me, I watched with
Everybody
my son.
loved him as a kid. That was the
Well,
problem.
yeah, I mean that's the problem. You know, Cherry Pie, that song. It's written about his asshole.
Why does this keep coming up on every podcast I'm on with you? What the fuck?
I just wanted to use it again.
What was it like working at Playboy?
Wait, she was making a point.
I lost my point.
I'm sorry. If
I don't know where it
interrupted.
was. Yeah, I got lost in all of that.
Oh, she wasn't a.
He was
oh, it was
explaining
passing.
about
Passing.
bookers and getting passed.
Just being passed at a club and you can go in there as a regular. And
Oh,
then they
yeah.
can
I was just
kinda-
basically saying that, like,
They let you in the back door, like the Corey Haim door. I'm sorry.
You just keep coming.
so that's the problem. They wouldn't stop coming. Look at her. Now she's a comedian. That's what Corey
Am I
gets. They
past
just keep coming.
See, this is what I need. I
You're
need somebody to
past
jump on that. Like, I'm not
didn't
the
even
only
have to
weirdo in
suck
the
a
room.
Well, not for that.
Yeah, I mean, why even close the door? Just keep it. Right, sorry.
In 10 seconds or less, it stopped being about whether you were funny. It started being about whether you were on message. And that kind of changed everything. And everybody kind of got the point that it was like, it doesn't matter if you're funny. It matters if you're saying what we want to say. And the whole Andrew Schultz thing was a booker came into the room and it was a booker. And she was like, Andrew, you're not going to tell that joke. And the reason I'm telling this is because it kind of scared me out of being who I wanted to be for a little bit also. And then I really regret that and went too far the other way, being like, I'm saying whatever the fuck. Andrew sat there and he goes, yo, are you a comedian or are you a booker? Like, if you want to tell your jokes, you go on stage. And she's like, Andrew, I will not book you here if you tell that joke, that Trump joke. And he goes up, and he wasn't Andrew Schultz. He was just a guy.
Yeah.
And he sat on the stool and looked over in this tight little room and was like, y'all see that fat bitch with the blue hair over there? She says y'all can't handle a Trump joke. Is that true? And then you could like feel the heat radius. It was like Chernobyl. You're like, oh, this thing's about to blow. And the joke was like kind of an innocuous joke. It was very funny. It was something to the effect of like, I don't want Donald Trump to be president, but I don't want Donald Trump to ever not run for president. He's the funny. Like, we need to make him run for mayor, run for governor, just line people up and let this dude roast, right? And it was a funny joke, and the room clapped, and he like looked at her, and she like stormed out of the room. And this was like 2015, and I was like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, this is a weird thing
Yeah.
to like throw a fit over.
Yeah, I feel that is like something I regret, is just letting it kind of scare me off stage. Although again, it's like that gay, everything happens for a reason. It forced me at the same time. My audience online was growing, and I was like, well, just focus on this. It freed me from waiting tables, which I was doing at the time. And I stopped getting up as much, and I started doing dumpster fire in my garage. And then 2019, like through all of 2019, and then 2020 came. So I was already set up for the pandemic. And had I been waiting tables and grinding and like still doing comedy, I would have been completely fucked. So
Yeah, I noticed the shift in 2012 when I first went to LA, when they were going to bring back In Living Color, and for like 2 minutes I was going to write for it, then they canceled it. But it was very irreverent, and but I could just see the writing on the wall of the different things going on, a lot of the bureaucracy going on in LA, and I could feel it in the rooms, that stuff I just didn't like it. I'm like, and what's the goal here? I'm like, I have been working as a comic on the road at that point for 8-9 years. Why am I, or at 8 years? So I'm like, why did I come here to get approval of others just so I can go get booked where I've already been working all these years? It made no sense to me, because my goal was stand up. I want to make movies, but I want to make independent movies. I don't want to work with studios. I don't want to. I mean, I would. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I wanted an in. That's why I was there.
Sure, yeah.
But then getting the other approval of comics, I'm like, I'm sober. I can't go to this place every night.
yeah,
and hang
that's
out
the other
with all
thing,
these
the
people.
hanging out to like get time.
Networking.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't worth it to me. So like I'd go to a couple clubs and do time, but the whole time I'm just trying to now get booked on the road because I rented an apartment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I got to keep making money. So it's always just been about doing stand up to me, that I never really was trying to seek the approval of like these cliques.
When did you think that for the longest time, I felt like comedy was about pushing boundaries, and then somewhere it changed to becoming about staying within the boundaries, right? And you take people that are like, there's people that have never even told a joke, they just mimic on TikTok, and they're hosting late night. They've never actually said a word.
See, I don't know that maybe it's because I'm outside of it. I feel like comedy never used to really be political at all. Like I think of like what's her name, Kathy Griffin and like Chelsea Handler. Like that was my exposure to comedy, or Dane Cook. Like it was like just like storytelling kind of. And once in a while, looking back, maybe there was a little bit of like tiny
Carlin
sprinkling.
was very political.
See, I never I wasn't like into comedy. Like I'd see like the poppy kind of people.
We didn't hate each other, right? Like Pryor was very political, right? But it was in a way where it was like, yeah, Italians do be like that. Like I think somewhere along the line we actually like started hating each other. So we couldn't joke with one another.
Well, Eddie Murphy brought up people together more. Pryor was more showing people something they had never seen before, which was like people were not aware of, like, they were aware of the ghetto, but they never heard a story about it. I mean, this is a guy who was raised in a brothel. This is a guy who was a crack addict, and it's like you didn't hear that ever before of somebody being that open. I mean, besides maybe Dick Gregory, but he was way more hidden than Pryor, you know. And Red Fox, but Red Fox was street jokes. He was funny, but they were just dirty jokes. But I mean, Pryor was saying like things about where he came from, what his addictions were, all like that's why he's so well regarded, is because it shifted into making it vulnerable and personal, which had never been done before. And I think there is a political aspect to that, because you're seeing a side of like poverty and things that you didn't really, and at least white America at the time, for the most part, wasn't really paying attention to.
Yeah, but Candice, you make a great point, because the true art form is like saying something, making a statement, but in a way that's so entertaining or appealing that you don't really realize the statement is being made.
Well, there's also I didn't feel the attitude that I was being talked at or being infantilized, where it was like, I know the way to think and the way to live, and this is the way to do it, so let me preach for an hour on this stage. It was more just like, again, like storytelling, where now I feel like I can't watch any sitcoms because like there's an agenda that's being pushed so heavily. And I remember it was like right after COVID, like 21 or something, and every show I was watching I had to just abandon because it was just like they were laying it on so thick.
Oh
even
God,
the commercials.
what was it?
So
Brooklyn
thick.
Nine-Nine. What?
Oh, yeah.
The end of that series, I was like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was such a funny show, and then like all of the BLM and 2020 happened, and they had their show about cops, and there's like 8 cab vans outside, and they did not know how to deal with it at all. And it was just like, talk about breaking your ankle on the dismount. It was just, holy shit. It became unwatchable. You were like, wow, you guys really don't know how to deal with
Reno
this,
911,
do you?
same thing. The Reno 911, which
the
is one of the greatest
original
shows of all
was
time.
So
best.
good.
Yeah, and then the remake was like, and almost abusive, like it was a war crime. Like they should have been tried. Whoever the writers were should have been tried for social injustice.
And Thomas Lennon and I'm forgetting the other guy's name. They wrote a book called How to Make Movies for Fun and Profit, with fun crossed out. And it's all about how they wrote 17 again, whatever. It's like how to take a very hacky idea, write it into a movie, and sell it to Hollywood. That's the whole point of the book. And that way you can also make a Reno 911 and do whatever you want. But it's like how to play the game both ways. It's a great book. So it's fascinating because it's like, but then you took the thing that was art and for you that you thought was funny and kind of started pushing it towards what those people wanted to get it back on. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of depressing. I don't think you should have to push a line either. I think if your natural voice, like when I'm on stage, I'm just being me. So whatever you see, that's who I am, and I hope that comes off that way. You know, like that's just me being funny. I'm not trying to push an audience. I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm not trying to not be edgy. I'm not trying to be clean. I'm not trying to be dirty. Like, I think the problem is people now think like, oh, I have to be shock. I have to be edgy. I have to be, you know, or I have to be squeaky clean and try to be Nate Bargatze, and you're not that. But you see a lot of people just trying to be shock, and I think that is also a problem because the pendulum swinging, it's overcorrecting the wokeness.
Right.
You know, where it's like, we don't need it where it's like that all the time. Like, you should be true to your own voice. That's, like you said, when it's everything telling you how you should think. And also, with stand-up, you should never tell people how to think.
No.
Like, your whole thing is like, you're a piece of shit and they're supposed to
morons.
relate to you.
None of us graduated from college.
No, I barely got out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how I did. I have it best in 8th grade education. So it's like I don't stand on stage and preach about how you should feel.
And I'm in recovery. Like, what am I? That's why when people watch Dumpster Fire, I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you how to vote. I know a lot of people want to be affirmed and they want to know that their beliefs, this is like how it works. The confirmation bias is just like, I want to know that I'm thinking correctly. I want to feel like I'm right. And I'm like, I'm a moron. You guys do what's best for your family. I don't care how you vote. And that's a controversial thing to say now. People will be like, oh, little Miss Captain of the fence riding team or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not riding a fence. I'm just being honest.
Captain of the fence riding team. I like that.
That's going to be my t-shirt.
Well, people say that to me.
Ned Furnace that one into my next.
Well, people say that to me too. Like, oh, you ride the fence too much. And it's like, no, because I have issue-to-issue opinions about what affects me.
Sure.
And I don't judge people based on what they do. Like, I've made too many mistakes in my life to look at other people and be like, you know what? You should get it together. Have you ever driven a burning car down a freeway backwards because you were drunk off your ass?
David, I don't think I have.
Most people haven't. So it's hard for them to be like, no, Dave, tell me, what are all the secrets of how to win at life?
This is the thing. Most Americans are not tuning into this stuff they want to laugh. They want to just. Yeah. That's what it was a weird. Yeah, I think there's so many forces at play talking about all of these things, because the other thing that's happened that I've been contemplating a lot is, and I contemplated this when we had this meeting with these guys who are going to do shorts for us, because they're like, oh, Dumpster Fire is good, but you need to package it differently in TikTok shorts. And we had a meeting with these young Gen Z kids from Senegal, and the look on this kid's face when he's like, what's your strategy? What's your brand? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was like, wow, how do you even have a fucking business? Like, how are you even...
You're getting negged by a teenager from Senegal. You're like, I have
brilliant.
fucking bread whenever I want to eat it, bro. Why don't we calm down?
That's not true. I'm going to defend these kids because, first of all, they speak
because you're a white girl. I get it.
No, because they speak like 4 languages, and he's like a genius, and they are like wonderkins, but they came up with, you are a personal brand, and you need a strategy. They view the world that way. I came up in the 90s where it was like, fuck you, we're not selling out, we're making art.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I still have that like factory setting in me.
I love that, because I mean that's where it really comes from. At the end of the day, we're all kind of like class clowns and outlaws, right? Like that's what this is. It's like, oh, you don't want me to say this? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm definitely not going to say it. But the money comes in, and activism. I think this maybe back to your point. Activism is meant to be taken very seriously by nature. Comedy is not meant to be taken seriously by nature. So when people are taking activism and trying to pass it off as comedy, you're doing both poorly. Mm-hmm. And that's like Saturday Night Live for the last decade, right? So it's
tragedy.
It's activism with a laugh track. Mm-hmm. It's horrible activism and it's horrible comedy.
You felt Jim Carrey as Joe Biden being high energy and playing electric guitar was not
You didn't like Hillary Clinton playing the piano?
The night comedy died?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I like Kate McKinnon, but I was watching that and I'm like, this isn't real, right?
No, I thought it was parody. And then I was like, oh God, this is real.
Yeah, at the end when I realized...
I still watch it sometimes just to laugh.
Yeah, because it was the day that they thought...
Insane.
I just can't imagine Lorne Michaels, who's been in his office doing coke with Belushi, just like, you're going to what? All right, you're going to play... I'm just going to play Hallelujah on the piano. Go do some Leonard Cohen.
That's the cold open.
But what's funny looking at it now is I showed it to somebody a boomer who didn't know that they did that, and they were like, is she singing Hallelujah because he won? I'm like, it could be perceived that way.
Yeah, right?
But that's not actually what was happening here.
Yeah. That is true. It's a weird song to pick. If it was more energy behind it, they would have been like, wow, they're really celebrating Trump's presidency.
Yeah. It's, and at that level, I just don't get it, right? Because you're making so much money, like why? But at the low levels where you got to make money, there's scripts that I get that are like, own the libs. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is not funny. And I was like, if you just let us be funny, people will be like, oh, those guys are cool, and we'll win the culture war that way. But if you make it like, oh, but make sure you really turn the knife in on this trans kid, and it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, this is just hacky. This is not funny. It's making you look bad.
That's the problem, too, is approaching it like it's a war, right? And then everyone's always on the defense, and it's like, how can I, like, you bring a gun, that whole thing, right? So everyone keeps like escalating with like their weapon of choice, and then it's not really changing anything.
Yeah,
so
well, conservatives are showing up with balloon animals.
I think it's like just don't participate in the thing, you know, to like whatever extent. We've talked about this, so it's like, sure, guys shouldn't be in the bathroom. There's a rate, like, what do you call it, like a sprinter today that was all over X, full package on display, ran as a man until 45, is now like 50 something, decided to run as a woman
In the Paralympics?
I don't know.
No, there was something. There was
Maybe.
no, there was.
That's the final call on it.
If it was today, right? I guess me.
I don't know.
I don't care that you identify as a woman. I care that you
Let me see. I might
identify as not having legs.
No, I might have the name on me. Hold on a second.
No, there was something I was reading about someone doing this in the Paralympics, and I was like, really? Even the Paralympics?
Oh my
like,
really?
you can't.
Yeah, and then J.K. Rowling. Yeah, where is it? Petrillo.
Can you imagine trying to hide a
But-
cock in the Special Olympics?
Not even trying. No, you can see it. It's just there. Just there, like clearly shaped.
Really?
And then no one's even mad, and
Corey
I just
Feldman
don't
biathlon.
understand it.
Right.
I guess my point is, like, instead of fighting it and just being outraged, just like, don't sit down, don't participate. You run by yourself, you asshole, right? You're competing against yourself.
That's a
Just
hard one,
don't
though, man. Like, if you're Riley Gaines and you've been working your whole life towards this moment, that's a very tough one. It's a very hard one. Like, on a certain level, I almost think, I wish
But
comedians
if
would...
everyone sat down, though, there would be no race, and then there'd be no choice but to pull this person out of the pool. Is my point. So instead of like going to your keyboard
Or
and like
hold
making
them
it this
in the
thing,
pool.
just like
Yeah, but it's not. That's not even. I disagree. I
Couldn't hold
push
Leah
back
down.
on that because it shouldn't be up to the girls. Because the women that I've interviewed not Riley, but Paula, I had her on my podcast, and they all keep waiting for the adults to show up and say, "Oh no, this has gone too far," and nobody ever does,
Which is wild.
And I think the same thing happened at the Olympics. You hear from people who are competing, and they're like, "We just thought eventually, like somebody would be like, no, men can't, box women," and nobody does. So. It doesn't feel fair again to like put it on these women who have worked so hard to be the ones. I mean, I think it is going to fall to them.
Right,
but
exactly.
I don't, and unfortunately they're going to lose out on medals and all these things, but it doesn't feel fair that should fall on them to me.
It's not fair, but like you can't wait for someone else to rescue you at the same point. And
Well,
all these dads, like, what the heck are you doing with your daughter in a changing room and you're just letting this happen?
They don't want to lose their
That's
job
Well, that's
because
the thing,
somebody
right?
goes after them online and puts a Facebook post up that this guy's a bigot.
Which, in a weird way, is the fault of the right, because like, hey, if these guys had union gigs like my grandfather did, they could say whatever the hell they wanted to say, and I ain't gonna lose my job. Like, there's no confidence you can have in the world like a 1960s grandfather that's got a job for life and a pension, and they'll just like let that hard R fly, dude. Like,
I agree. I think that's something, obviously there are bad issues with unions at some point, but I think we need to bring back the Italian mob, as I've said many times, and it should be involved in probably every sport. Trust me,
they got a little greedy.
The problem is
But
they
if
got
the
a little
mob
too
was running
greedy.
things,
But you think too with Hoffa, they're like, you still can't find him, can you? That should be a learning lesson.
Well,
lesson.
there was a guy. So my sister lived in South. Where was she in Boston? She was somewhere in Boston, and there was some guy going around doing something, and then
Uncle Whitey.
They didn't go to the cops. They told like the local pizza guy, and then he just disappeared. The guy who was doing this. So they did. They would like often in their neighborhood go to the mob before they even went to
you
the
didn't
cops.
hear a lot of
yeah.
you didn't hear a lot of drag queen story time at the elementary school back when the Gambinos had
It's weird because it's like,
had a presence in the community.
can
Did
you
you?
imagine? Just,
Hey, you're not gonna go inside and talk to the kids,
Hey,
right? I heard this thing. You're gonna.
hey, Sammy, is that a guy in a dress there? What are you doing? You
Let
gonna
me tell you something. We all make mistakes. How about you turn around, go home,
I got a funny story.
and tell all your other queer friends they can do whatever they want at the bars. The elementary school's off limits.
As he's reading, you just see two wops just laying down plastic.
That'd be a funny sketch.
What's this about? No, keep reading your books.
You got Vinny with one of those hall monitor safety fucking belts on. Hey, you with the double D titch and the 10-inch schlong there. Where do you fucking think you're going with that fucking
This is a bone
C-Spot run book, huh?
Oh, whoa, look at that. 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish. You're going to be sleeping with fish? Keep reading your stories.
See Spot run. Oh, no. Spot can't run because his kneecaps is broken.
Yeah. Oh, that's a real shame how that goes.
Weird. Maybe Spot should have understood boundaries.
Oh,
and then
the
it just
places
becomes
we'll
like
go.
mob story hour, which doesn't seem any better, by the way.
This is a story of Vinny the Rat, the man who couldn't keep his mouth shut.
To give a mouse a cookie. You don't want to talk about what happens when that mouse becomes a rat. Oh. The kids are just crying.
I think Candice is trying to open up a school. Maybe, we can put you in touch with some people and, get you the right heads of the family.
I think that's right. You get the right people.
Yeah,
you see
we know people who know people.
Principal's just got slicked back hair and smoking a cigarette. What can I do for you?
Today for lunch, no spaghetti with a little bit of the meat gravy. I don't want spaghetti! You're going to eat the spaghetti. My owner's been back there for 3 hours. You eat the fucking spaghetti.
You made me pop an eye out of your skull for Dame Edna?
I ain't eating nothing but carbs. It's all right. There's recess.
There's a break. Wait for your break. I think a lot of times, like what we talk about, though, with stuff like that, like when I bring it on stage, and it's I've gotten good feedback from trans community and both the right, where like I still do the joke, but it's basically like if I were to compete as a woman, I would win nothing. So there's no way like anybody would care or protest. They'd just be like.
Also, the trans community doesn't give a shit. It's the fucking white women with a Twitter account. Not you though.
But I've had people say like, this is how to do it.
Should I pivot?
It's like this is how to like point out how ridiculous it is without shaming one person.
Right.
It's shaming myself, and it's like a lot of times they're like, well, this is how you do it. Like, we appreciate you pointing it out in this way, and it's not. That's my natural go-to. I'm not trying to please anybody, but the idea of is like to point out how ridiculous it is to just put me as an Olympian and let the crowd visualize that. It's absurd, and I think that's the problem is we have these conversations, and we don't think it's as prevalent as it is. But it is at an Olympic level now, where it is kind of just, why is everything hateful if we do bring it up? And I think also in society, men should protect women, and we're not.
Yeah, this is why I keep saying the WNBA, those players should know their goddamn place and start asking for more money, because once they get any kind of real money, all the dudes are going to start being like, I play too.
They sure. Oh, can you imagine when it's Joanna Man? Yeah. Eventually you're just going to show up.
Making $500,000 a year. Every G League player is going to be like, tuck and dunk.
The only girl on the court is just that one from Des Moines, just covered in bruises.
I just don't understand how the LGBT community and like feminists and shit, they get like all behind these men.
No, it's not all of them though. This is the piece I wrote for Spectator of like how pride lasts the public, and this I wrote a piece for Spectator and it about how pride lasts the public basically like a year ago, and I interviewed all these like lesbians, gay men, Douglas Murray, brilliant people. I wish I could have published every one of their interviews because they're all brilliant, and they're like, the gays aren't behind this.
Yeah.
The lesbians aren't behind it. It is, like you said, white, like young white liberal straight women who are kind of cosplaying bi right now and will probably grow out of it eventually and end up in the suburbs like me. Like, we just smoked cigarettes and got tattoos. Just don't chop your tits off. Like, what?
Right.
Just revolt or like, what am I trying to say?
Rebel. Yeah.
Rebel in like a normal way.
Yeah, in some way it's like you're willing to watch all of society burn down just so you don't have to shave your armpits. Like, dude, just fucking calm down a little bit.
I don't mind if you don't shave them.
Like, it's okay. I don't fucking care, dude. Like,
I don't know why I threw that
it's
in.
It's just like, fuck the patriarchy. So everything that's ever happened
the patriarchy
that built the greatest
over.
civilization the world has ever known has got to just fucking be destroyed. Because why? Because
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. So everyone talks about the patriarchy, and then you have to say, well, what would you replace it with? So are you replacing with something that's like more cohesive and like working together and symbiotic, or are you saying that the matriarchy is going to inherently be better? And like some people have that perspective, so it is like to tear it down. But I think anytime you're saying like only one polarity is supposed to be in charge, I think that's where things get in a mess. Because as much as I hate that word being overused all of the time, there was definitely a case for a lot of revision You know what I mean? Like there was definitely too much power in a lot of places, and like women not having choices. We couldn't wear pants. We couldn't send mail. When they first launched Post, they were like, we can't do this because the stay-at-home moms are going to start having affairs. And they're going to start writing to their lovers.
And they did.
And
they did, yeah. Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah. But it's like there definitely was room for revision. So it's like, don't knock the whole thing down, but how do you work together to make something better? But it's definitely not getting rid of all the men and putting just women in place.
They're they're redefining all these things constantly. Like the patriarchy was like, okay, male-dominated politics. Women can't vote. These all things, right? Now the patriarchy it includes capitalism. It includes Western civilization.
It is because that is masculine.
But it's also intersectionality.
It doesn't mean so patriarchy. If you're using it the right way, I don't think it necessarily is bad. To me, when I hear that, it's just like male dominated or it's like driven with masculinity. So that doesn't mean that that's wrong. Like you need discipline and you need goals and you need to be able to like climb and
and those are considered masculine.
Yeah,
things?
for sure. Yeah, if you go into the more spiritual perspective of divine feminine, divine masculine, or those energies, like what a woman is, it's like that fluidity, that softness, that openness, and the man is like driven. So they say that men have to act on something to make it happen, and women tend to be more magnetic. So we actually attract things. So we don't have to work as hard technically to get things. It's more effective for us not to be so rigid. It actually works against us as women. And men,
yeah, loosen up, baby.
And then for men, it works better to be disciplined. And it's like it's this weird lie that we're the same and we're supposed to achieve success the same way or see the world the same way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to.
No, we're not. We're not. So
I mean,
like the patriarchy's not bad and being a woman's not bad, but it's like
no,
right?
And I think that's why it's a combination of. It's why we both exist. It's why we raise children. It's why men have certain responsibilities.
Yeah, that being said, if we just stop women voting for like 2 years, we could fix this pretty good, right? Everybody agrees?
I don't think women really vote.
I just do what my husband says.
Yeah.
The funny thing with the women voting thing goes back.
We just get our ballots at home, and I fill hers out for her.
Yeah, that's
my husband doesn't even let me see the ballot.
She's still fucking hung up next to the radiator.
See, you change your mind though with my household because I've voted for Trump 3 times now because we had to vote for him to be on the ticket in North Carolina, and my husband was in camp RFK, and now that RFK endorsed Trump, he's looking at me and he's like, God damn it.
All roads lead to Trump, baby.
Yeah.
It's really funny, actually. You're like, I was withholding sex until my husband did vote for Trump.
Show me that masculinity, that toxic masculinity.
A joke, obviously. Women should be allowed to vote. Sorry, sisters. It does go back to like Greece. Back in the day.
We didn't think you weren't joking until right now.
And now we have questions.
This is like when I got the BLM
Women can
emails.
also withhold sex.
Not for long.
I can be like, honey, I'm going to withhold sex until you vote for Trump. And then 4 years later.
She's like, oh, you were withholding?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
That's not true, though, either. I mean, maybe it's different points in marriage, but I would be like, I'm voting for Trump. If my husband said that for like a week, I'd be like, I'm voting for Trump.
Oh, good for you. We just stopped naturally. Go on.
What do you think? See, as a single guy, I'm always fascinated by this because this is something that everybody always talks about. Like, what do you think is a long time to go in a marriage without making love to your husband?
Making love? I need to get
decades.
Boinked, you know? I mean, I think it's different for everybody. But I know from experience that we'll just start, maybe you can confirm this too, we'll just start like sniping at each, just like, there's like this, like, and I'm like, oh, we need to fuck. Like that's
nothing makes a guy hornier than getting fucking nagged at constantly.
No, it's not nagging. It's just we'll start like
Ending
you
the
get really
nagging.
snippy.
You get snippy with each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just start like you're short with each other, and we're not generally like that ever. And so if that's, I'm like, oh, it's been, I think I don't think you should go more than a week unless you're like just had a baby or I don't know, you have some physical complication or whatever. But I think
anything over a week starts to affect the relationship. And it's the one thing that like bonds you romantically and makes that relationship different than everything else, because you deal with, especially when there's kids, like so much.
Yeah.
There's just so much life getting thrown at you, and I think that you need those moments to reconnect and be like, oh, we're on the same team.
And we're we were here first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before this kid.
And if not, then immediately, at least for me, it's like we're adversaries if like that's not happening. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I
was going to say years.
My last relationship, we were in like 6 months.
Explaining a lot.
We realized, honestly, it was like 4 months before.
So very
and I was
long.
like, I don't think we should be together anymore. She's
4
like, yeah,
months.
no, I think so too. I'm like, yeah.
4 months.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
dude, it was bad.
I'm just
Is it
saying.
really
bad.
years?
It was really bad.
Years?
But
What's the-
not years, but a week.
But
Yeah.
you're way. I mean,
You
look,
travel,
it's-
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
No,
it's
but
hard when you
also,
travel. That's the problem.
How long have you been married?
Oh God, 9 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm on year 5, so we're not. I think it's different seasons in marriage too.
Yeah, I'm 16.
Yeah, you're further down the line.
Ours can drive. In Michigan, I don't know if they changed the law.
She's just 16 years old.
Yeah, so I think that maybe he's traveling and
Travel throws it for a loop. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been together for like 15, and there's definitely
coming on
been
back with a
points
carpet.
where there's long stretches, especially after a baby.
And I've had a lot of people say that it's like everyone's sexual drive is different. So I just have like
a higher one.
I didn't. Yeah, the great thing about being married. It's funny because all these single people
Some
will be
days
like,
morning wood feels like a miracle.
Some days.
What?
Honey!
Honey,
Honey!
it's working.
It's happening!
It's working. I thought it was broke.
Ah!
Yeah.
I also am 42, so I have to urinate, and now that's taken. That's far more important.
Not everyone has the same sex drive.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, not everybody does.
So how do you
Our audience
compensate?
is getting horny, and then you.
Yeah, and then
I wanted to
Gerard
ruin
starts
it.
screaming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I should let you
The
two
girls were
talk.
talking about sex, and the guys
Yeah.
were like, I can't get it up for years.
Yeah, that's true. You two seem to be, everybody's fantasizing, and I'm just over here like, that's nice.
Sorry.
Oh, a week, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A week, huh? Weird. Yeah, I never go more than a week.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been in some courses, like intimacy courses and things like that, and I've had the perspective that you maybe age out of it at some
Yeah.
point where the relationship that's just not on the table
I
anymore.
think
And
it's
your
still
friends.
important.
Well, yes, not
yeah.
for you. No. But I was
Yeah.
thinking like 70s or whatever, and this coach was like, absolutely not. I'm
Yeah,
coaching
it's not-
this 85-year-old couple, and they're doing it several times a week, and that blew
Yeah.
my mind.
Really?
Oh,
Blew
no,
my
I mean,
mind.
that's why there's like, you look at a lot of these old folks' homes, and they get Viagra, and everybody's got herpes, and they have that new form of
Syphilis?
chlamydia,
Or
syphilis or
something,
chlamydia,
yeah.
whatever made Al Capone's brain rot out and have him
think that
fishing
was
in his
syphilis.
pool. But yeah, yeah.
Because they think they're at the end. But with AI, apparently, if we can make it 5 more years, we're all going to live to be 200. So imagine these
Yeah.
people that thought that they were banging at 77 in the old people
And they're
home.
doing it now.
And now they got 150 more years to live with herpes the whole time. It's like, rats.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's still important, I think, at any age. Like,
I think.
I find my wife beautiful, so it's like, it is what it is.
Got it. Cameras are on. Cool.
I know. It's pointing right at me. And I'm really trying to keep my half.
Love you, baby.
No, I think you do that. Like if you are in a healthy relationship, I think after someone's given you a child, like there's wear and tear that happens with time and things like that. But you see it in a different lens, and like there's a difference between someone that's hot and someone that's beautiful, and I think there's a different level of appreciation and just like security in a weird way. Like it's like it's something deeper and less fragile than the other thing, because the other thing is just so vain, I think. So I think good men tend to see like those stretch marks or like whatever, and they're like, that was from that pregnancy, and like that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I can't imagine not like caring about anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems very shallow.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But I do think familiarity breeds contempt. And I think in my next relationship that I think I take very seriously, we should each have our own rooms and our own beds.
Some people can't sleep together.
Yeah, and I think there's like, you lose a little bit of that kind of like, that raw animal sexuality when it's like, oh, move over, I gotta piss. You know, like some people love that stuff. In my relationships, for whatever reason, probably because I'm a disgusting fucking ogre, but it's just you're walking around in underwear all the time, and you're not having sex, and it's like when we first started, we lived in two different places. Every time we saw each other, just like bam. But now we live together, and it's like, we can do it later, and she annoyed me now, or like I don't know. I feel like in some ways that separation. And then the last one that I was in, she got mad. She was like, I feel like I'm always the one that has to initiate. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm always down. I'm a yes. I just need to know when you're.
Yeah, I
I
get that
hate
too.
doing that
Yeah.
though. I hate having to always initiate. I'll do it once in a while, but to me, like that ruins the power play of it.
But the woman is, see, that's interesting, man, because like the man, she would say like the man takes the lead.
Yeah.
I'm like, the woman is, you're the hot one here, dude. Like
It's so hard for men to see that like that because it's like we feel like you have to want it when you're in a
100%.
relationship, then just be like, come up and grab you and be
Well,
like.
you have to set the stage, so there's all that, like the foreplay that happens throughout the day. Like, are you making sure that she's?
But
not
I'm already
stressed out?
hitting her.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Doesn't she get it?
I'm screaming my needs.
We were at the airport.
Candice trying to be serious.
we
This
were-
whole thing
I
is my
just can't.
favorite. It's my favorite episode.
No,
We
you're
were
right,
at the
though.
airport the other day, and like my husband like went to do like this to me while we were waiting for a bag, but he was like playing,
Yeah.
and I immediately like smacked his hand away. I was like, "What are you doing? That's just so inappropriate." And like people, like a couple of people looked, and he goes, "Oh, I forgot that you think that's sexual, so it's inappropriate."
Yeah, you're like,
Oh, he was just actually trying to kill you.
No, he was like doing it to like just in his mind it was like a playful, sweet thing, but to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, that's sexual. Don't do that.
Well, to everybody around you, it was-
Yeah, I'm at the airport. I don't want to sit in a puddle for the next 3 hours.
That's sexual.
everybody around you that just thinks you had an awful flight. And you're about to go home with a man who hurt you.
So you're about to get hit by this Marine over here that's looking at you on the side of the
That's
side.
what I
You
mean,
can't do
yeah.
that.
Oh, there's so many guys waiting to be like, I'll save the day. And you're like, you just hit my husband?
He was a really nice guy, I swear.
Yeah.
Fucking weird, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think every time I say this, people look at me weird, but I think having your own room, having your own space is like really, really important.
See what I do?
I couldn't do that.
For real, like I put on a CPAP mask. And that just like it drives her wild, and I don't know if it's like a magnet, but women just start surrounding our house when I put it on.
Yeah, that's what I do.
It's just weird. It's like a bear's when somebody's on their period.
So I walk around Miami just going up to chicks, be like, "Yo, what's up, baby?"
Even if I'm alone in a hotel and I put on my CPAP elephant mask and I catch myself in the mirror, I'm like, you
And
better
you guys
touch
are wondering
yourself.
why that you're not getting more sex.
I'm getting
it-
sex. It's
They're
just
not
much-
wondering.
it's just not much consensual sex. Is the problem?
Look, IBS and a CPAP mask, you can't figure this out. I'm doing the two things women love: diarrhea and snoring.
Dave's just gone through about 20 minutes of my material, and like my whole set is gone now. It's dead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be crass.
No, it's fine.
I'll sit like this. I'm pretty good for what I look like.
You're on TV,
Yeah.
so that helps.
Yeah.
There's like 11s of people see you every night. So
I
you
mean,
gotta be
there
turned on.
are
11s.
there are dozens of fans in this world that want to see some Dave Landau.
I tell you, man. What do you think of censored TV? What happened with Compound? You were on Compound for a while. You Gavin McGinnis, that whole stuff. What do you think of what's going on there? Any comment?
What's going on there?
I
They
think
getting censored again?
No. They're really, really leaning into like almost
hard
shocking
right.
for like hard right. Shocking for shocking. Like Elijah Schaefer, and they're growing. I mean, but it's hard to
Fuentes,
like.
and I think is he on there?
I think I don't know if he is, but like
He's a regular.
The Groypers and stuff are all on there. Are you familiar with censored TV at all?
I thought that was the same thing as InfoWars. Like I thought it was the like sister
No, that was
companies.
Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But no, censored TV is Gavin McGinnis.
Yeah, I can't see a face.
Oh, I don't know. I
Well,
think
they bought Compound. Compound Media was Anthony Cumia, and well,
The reason why honestly I left the show was because I thought that he was going to go to South Carolina and it was going to shut down anyway, and it did. So that's really why I left there. I haven't seen much of the new stuff they're doing. I don't know, the far right thing, it has its fan base. It just seems a bit dangerous, in my opinion. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know like how strong a lot of their feelings are on it. But I know that anytime I did Elijah's show, and this is nothing against Elijah, but it's like the second I did it, I'm in Media Matters. Like we did a thing where they said it was legal to kill trans kids in Texas. And I was like, well, obviously. I was like, I ran over 6 on my way to the studio. And like, I just made a bunch of jokes about how I had a tackle box of weapons just to murder trans kids. Yeah. So like, but it was obviously like just mocking the idea that anyone would assume that would be legal. But then they clip it out, and then they tell you like they're joking about killing trans. And it's like that's not at all what I'm doing. I'm joking about the fact that you would be dumb enough to think that it's legal to murder someone who's a child that's trans. So it's like I think there's so many people hunting that I can't imagine. I don't know. I think it's a very rough way to go, but I could be wrong.
Because you think people they just don't see that it's a joke. Like they don't see the obvious thing.
It's not always a joke, though. You know, like that's
for them.
Yeah, for them. Like, and Gavin has a huge following, and you know, I know Gavin, and there's a lot of people who see it that way. But it's definitely a hard line in the sand to draw, and Gavin's experienced a lot of pushback. I've watched it the whole time. I mean, when the Proud Boys got called out, which was way over the top, and then when he got in trouble for. Me, Mike Malice, and Gavin were on Anthony's show, and Anthony was off that day. And we're like, maybe you shouldn't wear a katana or bring a katana with Asian glasses into Times Square right now. And then the next day, it was a fake one, obviously, but then the next day was like this Proud Boys carrying a weapon through Times Square in New York. Like, it just seems like a very dangerous road to go down. But I mean, if they're willing to, they're willing to, I guess. I don't agree with it.
Yeah, it seems I think it's kind of what you were saying earlier, in an effort to push back against the woke things that have become like so anti-woke. But a lot of it is just like, nah, like this is like legit racist. This is legit.
Yeah, and it's like using comedy, the overcorrection in comedy of like there's not all criticism is wrong in saying that you're just using comedy to be cruel. If you're just like a low-hanging fruit joke that's like. A roast is supposed to be out of love. That's not, you know, and even experiencing this myself, I think it was something I always had to work against or be aware of was, am I reacting because I'm feeling rejected? Like, that's a very powerful force.
I reacting because I'm feeling rejected?
I'm feeling rejected by my comedian friends who aren't following me. I'm feeling rejected by the dominant culture that I thought I was part of and then realized that I no longer am. When your tribe kind of kicks you out or you realize that you're the people you thought were your friends weren't your friends. This has happened to people all across the board since really 2015, I feel like, in increasing ways. And I see a lot of people who get, like, they just go from one extreme to the other. I was never an extremist, so it wasn't like I was some left-wing activist who became a right-wing activist, because I'm just not inherently an activist. So I think you see a lot of that, but it was something I had to be aware of, was how much of this is just me feeling rejected and reacting, like being reactive. And
wow, that's such a good point. I never considered it that way. That's really interesting. Because there is a lot, especially in this business. This business is 99% rejection. As somebody that's never been rejected once in their life, rejection, how would you describe rejection to it? How would we describe rejection? Rejection is when somebody doesn't want you. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
See,
when someone says no and it's not out of your mouth.
Over and over and over again, there's a lot of rejection.
Having to what?
If you pick the wrong guy over and over and over again, there's a lot of rejection.
I mean, that's the thing people,
So, but in our business, 99% of it's reject. Like it's funny.
You have to get used to it.
Well, yeah, but then you like lash out, and I'm like, oh, I'm never playing that. I just was talking bitching to you about a club the other day. I'm like, I've explained this. Never play that club again. And
you just have to
just fucking sit here and go, oh.
Yeah, eventually.
But that's very interesting. How much of it now you got like all fucking inception? Like how much of my act is just rejection response. Like, what the hell's
Ooh,
going on
we
there,
might
man?
have reached a new level of conscious awareness in Gerard
I
in this
didn't want it. I
episode.
liked my level of self-loathing. That's interesting.
It's true though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very like, you're spot on. And then a lot of stuff, yeah, it is just racist. I'll call it what it is. And you'd be like, I don't really want to jump in on that because I can understand a joke. There are jokes that are racist that you can laugh at, and then there's just racism where you're like, well, this isn't. You're using racism and disguising it as a joke as opposed to a joke that you just happens to be racial.
But the other people won't put you on, so you're like, I can have 1 million viewers. Like, you do it, like, you kind of go through it in 2 different ways. It's like, all right, I can have 1 million viewers here, but do I want those 1 million views? And then it's like, well, I can't get 1 million views the other way. You know, can I go on there and just be chill? But no, then you get patched in with these other people.
You can't do it for that reason.
No, and this is how the algorithm trains you. You know, that if you, and this is again something that I learned from Twitter, was if you have a tweet that goes viral for one that might get you a bunch of followers in one direction, you have to immediately weed those people out, because otherwise that algorithm is going, I mean, it hasn't been great for my growth or my bank account, but I can look in a mirror, I can sleep at night, I like my audience. I know a lot of people who have chased the algorithm and all of the reaction that they were getting and can't stand their audience and won't, and they just have to keep going down that path now because that's the path they have chosen, and it's where their money is, and their so I don't know, that's I don't know how you keep yourself honest like that, because it is, I was talking to my sister about this recently because she's been a little bit red-pilled, and she was like, you know, it's weird because if the algorithm's just picking up what I like, are we all brainwashing ourselves? I'm like, yes, yes we are.
It's a big...
we're just, it's just a loop. Like, we're red-pilling ourselves.
Loop,
it's not, I don't think, even as self-aware and conscious as I am, the algorithm knows me better than I know my fucking self, which is crazy. So even trying to be aware and conscious and not fall prey to those things, I'm still absolutely going to fall prey to those things.
Well, it's not even if you don't know yourself, I think, but I get exactly what you're saying, but it is just feeding you. It's feeding you everything that it thinks you want, to the point where you're disconnected from everything else going on. I mean, it's a great way to keep people kind of blind, is if they can't see everything else. Because if you talk to somebody else's feed, it's like, is your whole thing rescuing dogs? My thing's rescuing dogs. But then it gets to the point where it's like, why are there so many burned ones? I don't want to hit like. Like, I understand that he comes out good at the end, but you know, sometimes you just want to see a puppy getting a haircut.
And there's a perverse profit incentive.
I'm glad I made a point there.
There's a perverse profit incentive, man, because like even with these pedophile catchers now, and it's a great thing they're catching pedophiles and all this stuff, but like they're getting millions and millions and millions of views, and it's like,
some people,
you better be right. You're putting this guy on his entire world on camera, and if you're wrong, and you're outing this dude as a pedophile, or even worse, when these fucking Reddit kids decide that the next swatting thing is going to be, hey, my boy's a pedophile, go look him up, and then you're going to have these LA influencers like knocking down somebody's door at fucking, you know, where they work at Publix or some shit, and they'll be like, hey, we saw you talking with this girl on fucking, no, that wasn't me. The vigilante stuff's not good for tens of millions of views. You know, it's a perverse
vigilante stuff's not good because it's illegal. Really?
Well, there's a lot of things that are illegal that are pretty good, buddy.
Oh, no, I realize that, but I mean, yeah, you're right. But I mean, people shouldn't be doing it. I do agree with the like, if you have that solid evidence and you call the guy out and other people aren't doing their jobs, I think it's important.
Yeah, I want to be very clear. I'm not pro pedophile here.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying.
I want to be very clear.
All I'm saying is, as a representative of NAMBLA, that we should at least be allowed to have a convention at the Holiday Inn.
All I'm saying
All I'm saying is that it should be called MAPS.
Yeah.
So that we can get rid of the stigma.
Who was the first? I always want to know who the first person was that was like, guys,
Scott
I thought
Wiener.
of something.
Scott Wiener.
I
Really?
promise you
Really?
it was.
Yeah.
You know who
Yeah.
it is?
In
Yeah.
a room of
100%?
Well, no, I'm saying
Every
that, but it
fucked up-
probably was
Yeah,
him.
it probably was.
Really?
You're
In a
right.
room
Yeah.
of people was like, I like that.
Yeah.
That sounds so much better.
Yeah, all
Guys,
those.
there's no bad ideas.
Like advanced maternal age.
That was very funny. That was very
Somehow
funny.
this is not better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what think tanks come up with this stuff and are like, oh, I got a good one here. I'm always fascinated where this shit comes from. Like, who's the tip of the spear on this stuff?
Scott Wiener.
Yeah.
Do you know who Scott Wiener is?
No,
I don't
There's a
either.
lot of
He's a
pictures of
California
he
representative.
has the perfect name
State
for coming up
representative.
with
Is he really?
maps, though.
And every messed up policy that you hear about in California, you're like, oh, big shock. They're putting tampons in the boys' bathrooms. Scott Wiener. Oh, you're just gonna let what's the-
Romeo and Juliet law within a gay relationship is 10 years, and like it, because sodomy used to have a higher sentencing, and now somehow it doesn't because it's stigmatizing the gay community. So now if you sodomize a minor, as long as it's within a 10-year gap, you don't get a harsher punishment, because that would be mean to the gay community.
if you're-
The gay community should be up in arms because that's insane. You should,
God.
we don't
men
agree
in
with
women's
that. That's
prisons.
insane.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Yep, same thing. It's all every messed up thing. You'll start noticing that it's always him.
Yeah, leather and
Like the guy shouldn't be
leashes.
allowed near children.
Yeah,
Scott Wiener.
yeah,
And this is the guy who
He got
allows.
elected.
yeah, for sure. He still has a job.
He's very He drives a lot of policy in California.
Holy moly.
He did one with vaccines, like lowering the age of consent for vaccines. Lowering the age of consent is like, that's like a shoehorn, right, to get into something else. So he
Of
started
course.
that with vaccines. I think he lowered it to 12 or 13.
Wasn't he also the like kidnapping law behind that, where it was like the state's now like a sanctuary city for trans kids?
You
to
can
come?
borrow one for 2 days as long as you return it.
Everyone kind of jokingly, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just so dark and evil. Why would this
No, it's
person be in
dark and evil.
charge?
Yeah, look up
Someone
all of the
should
bills
kill
he's pushed
him.
forward.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, not literally, but allegedly. You know, whatever.
Joke.
His name's Scott Wiener, and his
know.
whole
I
thing
know.
is about
Is he related to Anthony Wiener?
I don't think so.
Also, another guy that
another gentleman.
was. Why do you think these people get elected? Like, how do these people get elected?
They're narcissistic. They'll step on anybody's throat. They'll keep going, and they're evil. And I mean, anybody who's evil and willing to hurt somebody, especially kids, it's not that hard to advance when you're a narcissist with no soul, because all you do is care about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what sucks, is a lot of people that are highly successful are narcissists.
Please feel free to continue this conversation, but I have to go.
Bridget, before you go, tell the people where they can find you, please.
Oh, go to where I don't even know where I'm like looking at nothing. I'm just looking
Where
in the
are you
middle
going?
distance or whatever.
Where you going, little Miss
To be a
Important?
mom.
I gotta go. Just go to my YouTube.
Sorry.
What is my YouTube? It's YouTube.
Oh, you fucking idiots know how the fucking internet
Phetasy.
works. Go figure it out. We'll
Phetasy.com.
put it down here.
Go to YouTube/Phetasy. That's where you can find me. Get on my free email list and Twitter.
Yeah,
Bridget
we'll
Phetasy.
link it
And
all
Instagram.
below.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having
It was
me.
so nice meeting you.
This
We'll
was
have to get
so
you
fun.
to North Carolina, and we'll do like a
Yeah.
girls episode.
We need a girls
Yeah,
episode.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very rude. We're right here.
And I'll just sit here quietly for the next hour,
Go do man
sipping
stuff.
my coffee.
Just put her on camera every
If
now
you
and then
guys
so the
want
guys
a
have
man-
something to look at. But
Yeah, as I'm putting the straw in my mouth and then go back.
Yeah.
that's the one.
That's all we
Yeah.
need.
The internet, do your thing.
Unless I say something really stupid and then you have to explain it to me, we could also do that.
Oh yeah,
That's
let's
true.
whatever
Yeah.
podcast this. Hey, what's something that you feel really strongly about that I could degrade you for believing
You know
it?
what's interesting about that is they recently had this girl on. I'm not going to say her name. I don't even know her name to say it, but she's really popular in the comedy scene. And you know who this is. Says like a lot of things where we were kind of talking about using comedy as an excuse to say like hateful, racist, like just mean things, right? It's almost using comedy as a license to be a terrible person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this person's entire thing. They have her on, but because she has the correct red pill talking points, like she's the good person in this argument and like this quote debate, and it's really not a debate with these poor girls. And then you have all these e-girls and they're kind of being cast off as like the thing that's ruining society. And I'm like, I don't know where we got to a point where sex, pleasure, enjoyment, the female body was worse for society than like actual hate, racism, violence, all of these things. But somehow it's got millions of views, and that's just something that's kind of constantly perpetuated. So when you go into like the hard right rooms or like communities or whatever, you'll have, and I love the military, this isn't a knock on the military, but like you have such a wide acceptance for military and violence, and you have such an acceptance for, I made another example, it's escaping me.
Dumb broads, am I right, bro?
No, but yeah, I know. See, I need my notes. No, but it's all of these things that we're so quick to say are better than something that is just enjoyable and isn't actually hurting anyone, because we have such a shame attached to it still. Like your Catholic bit is perfect because it's so true.
It's puritanical.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is in our society we are very puritanical, even if we want to admit it or not. And the reason why the ideas of perversions come out of that is because it's shame. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I think you see more of that in America than you do see in places like, I don't know, like let's just say you go to Amsterdam or something. Like, there's a reason why if something's not shamed, it's the same as like if you have a kid who can drink wine when he's young, the alcoholism rate when they're older isn't as severe as it is in America, where now people are dropping dead in their 30s and 40s of cirrhosis like never before. It's like 70% higher than it was 10 years ago.
What's cirrhosis?
It's when your liver rots away from alcohol abuse, and basically, essentially, your body turns yellow, jaundice, and you die. It's just basically an infection of your liver that's caused, not always, but usually by alcoholic hepatitis, alcoholism, that sort of thing.
The other examples I had were fighters, right? Because UFC and the PFL is huge right now, so another example of violence. And then gambling is also cool. So it's funny because in North Carolina, it was within weeks of banning all of the tube sites and requiring a VPN to get around it, they introduced gambling online.
Yes.
I was like, this is insane.
Hilarious.
Are we going to pretend that the other one doesn't destroy lives?
Gambling is the worst thing that we can do to our society. It's going to destroy it. We're watching it get destroyed. I mean, I absolutely am disgusted by the number of casinos that they put into towns where you have poverty already, and then you put in this thinking that they're going to be wealthy off of it. Then you have every single sports betting site. There's a reason why it was fine in Atlantic City and it was fine in Vegas. There was something to it. Or you play cards, whatever it was. This complete gambling now, there's more people who spend money on sports booking than they do on investing.
Whoa.
And that brings us to this episode's sponsor, BetUS.com. Go to BetUS.com and use code S&T for 20% off of your first deposit.
I don't know if they're going to like that.
And join our daily fantasy leagues.
Well, that's for Gerard versus Evil.
Not that they're bad.
Listen, somebody's going to take your money,
society.
guys. Somebody's going to take your money. Let BetUS take your money, because, they give some of it to us.
Look,
so, we're good.
Some of you can gamble responsibly. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out there and enjoy yourself.
Dude, I actually agree with you. I think, especially as a former athlete, it's already happening. The rigging stuff is already happening. It's already happening at lower levels. It's like rampant across Europe. The lower levels of soccer in Europe, like there's these major levels. I don't know if you guys know how European soccer works. I know you're a big sports fan. But there's like minor league levels, but the teams can go up into the big leagues. And there's so many like old Russian oligarch oil people, and there's so many of these basically mobsters that they buy these teams and they're like, oh, I want my team in the first division. And the other teams are just like, well, we can make that happen, buddy. Mm-hmm. And they just rig these games, like entire seasons. And it's like, if you look at what happens over there, then for whatever reason, it's not widely reported, probably because there's so much money involved in it. But referees go missing, players' families get kidnapped. It's fucking wild.
Well, and people are being thrown out here, for just sports betting just on themselves or in college and that sort of thing. Like it's everywhere now. Like it's becoming something that everybody is abusing because it's designed to be insanely addictive. It's not even just a casino, which is designed to be insanely addictive. And if it's the legality of a casino is it has to pay out 80 to 90% back of what it takes, it doesn't. Anybody who's been to a casino knows that it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's like you're constantly being screwed by these people, and who's going to stop you? The government, who's collecting all the taxes from that money. They're allowed to rob you. It is a license to tax and rob the public in every single state, and it's disgusting. And it's basically they just go, well, we saw Native American casinos get built and keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger because they were allowed to do it on their land. It's like, well, how do we tax that and take that money then? Let's put it on our land, let's make it legal, and let's drain everybody.
And people think they're going to beat the casino. Like one of the best lines from an old mobster I knew was, when a guy would be like, I got a system. He'd be like, oh yeah? How big's your house? Is the casino bigger than your house? Their system's better than your system.
Yep.
You're never going to beat them. And the thing is, if you actually do beat them, do you know what they start doing?
They blacklist you.
They ban you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you win, they're like, you must be cheating.
Yeah. That happened to Dana White. And then he got kicked out of a couple casinos. So then he pulled the UFC, the right for them to fight, show the fights. And then I think one of them was supposed to be hosting a fight, and he pulled it.
Really?
He's like, fuck you.
Good for him.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good for him.
But I mean, that's the argument against porn, and also like why isn't
What's the argument?
Well, the fact that impulse control, the argument against, well, definitely prostitution, and some people tie it to porn, is that there is no impulse control. The gambler, the alcoholic, this person will just spend every dollar they have on buying this pleasure, on buying this. It's dopamine, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And there's people that want to destroy themselves. There's this weird self-destructive mentality. I know guys that win tens of thousands of dollars. They'll win $50,000 on a weekend of football betting and bet $100,000 on Monday night just to feel the loss.
But
well, that's part of it. That's the up and down. That's the dopamine hit that you're addicted to, and you're addicted to losing. That's what people don't understand about gambling.
It's the whip. It's the sub-dom thing.
Yeah, that's what you're addicted to, and that's what's so scary about it.
Yeah,
is that you're addicted to losing, and you're addicted to giving up everything that you have.
In some ways, I bet that is what Bill Clinton's thing was. Because he wasn't going after like the most attractive women on earth. In some ways, it was like, I want to get caught and I want to see if I can get away with it. Because he did it so many times. Like I think that there's like when you're always winning and when things are always so easy, some of these guys, they have this self-destructive impulse of like, all right, let me set this trap and see if I can get out of it. We're going to turn the Oval Office into an escape room. That's just my theory anyway on it. I think there's a lot of people that. And again, my time in minor league baseball kind of informs this, where some guys, especially with the guys that thought they weren't going to make it, they start picking up an addiction, or they start picking up alcoholism, or they start cheating on their wife. And maybe it's a stress reaction, but also I just think there's something like giving myself an out. Like it's very, very hard to say, man, I just wasn't good enough. It's easy to be like, oh, if I had just stopped drinking, or oh man, if I never did drugs. And then people are like, oh, you were still good, but you had this thing. And it makes you a victim in some ways. Whereas if you're just not good enough, you're not a victim. You're just not good enough, man.
Yeah, sure, that definitely exists. But I always say that it's not the government's job to help you figure that out, right? Like if it's impulse control or whatever it might be, that's for you to sort out. And there's always going to be something else. If you take away the thing that's like their first choice, there's going to be a second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? They're not going to stop because it's a personality thing.
Well, and to take away porn and then replace it with gambling is absurd.
Insane.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. And that's up to people who can sit there and say, okay, well, that's wrong. It's like, okay, well, biblically, if you want to break it down, then you can look at gambling in the sense of, okay, don't do that. And people say there's nothing that says don't gamble necessarily in the Bible. But there is plenty of things that say, like this person loses so you can win. That's the entire thing.
Yeah, no usury.
And then there's literally a prostitute, or at least, what we're supposed to believe is a prostitute, where he's just like, yeah, don't do that. You're better than that. It's not. But, you're fine. It's okay.
Come be my wife.
Yeah. And realistically, it's not, we shame that so much harder than something that's very much defined as the sin of greed, the deadly sin of greed. And to people with gambling, that's greed in its highest form, going against desperation. And when desperation is all you have left is to start coming back because you're trying to get your money back, because you've lost everything, because now you've hit bottom and you realize your life has value, but you can't because the greed is just the thing that controls all of it. That's why we're losing as a society. We're so misplaced in what's important right now that we all have to lose everything to even feel what was once important. Mm. And I think for a lot of people that is, not everybody. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the problem, is where to replace something like that or to demonize one thing just to bring out the other. It's and as an addict, it's like, okay, well, you can't do alcohol anymore. Here's some crack, here's some whatever. It's one after the other, after the other, after the other. And they know dopamine hits. They are designed like casino, like a slot machine now. It's not a slot machine from 15 years ago that you saw that you throw some quarters in. It's this giant 3D thing that's designed to trap you and make it so you're a zombie and you just put in everything until you're done. And any time you get a hit that's higher, it's designed to make you want to get rid of it. That's evil. Mm-hmm. So I think as a society that is so puritanical, we have to realize what our priorities are and what your priorities are as a person. And I mean, you're right. You may be looking for an excuse to get out by doing it. But I think a lot of the times is everybody wants escape from life. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Mm-hmm. And when you hand somebody something that can be that detrimental, as opposed to just going to a movie, that's when I think you start seeing all the anger and the hate and the things that we're seeing now.
Yeah, it's a spiral.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
But to your point, where does regulation come in to this? Should I move to the middle? What is the government's role in this?
I think you just keep it transparent and safe. I think that's kind of the limitation for me. Like, I think transparent and safe, right? It's not to tell you what is allowed, what's not allowed, as long as it's not hurting other people. So I think one of the biggest issues with the porn industry is that there is no real regulation because no one wants to look at it because that makes them feel yucky. So it's like, instead of that, if you remove the shame and you can look at the thing objectively, as hard as that is for a lot of people, well, now you can actually fix a lot of the problems and make it safer. So all of these people that are trying to make it illegal, or they say that they're just trying to make it a change, but like really they're trying to just make it illegal. If you're trying to actually protect vulnerable women and children, you would make regulations that would make the entire industry safer, mm-hmm. right? So you would have intimacy coaches for regular film, but you don't have them on porn. That makes no sense mm-hmm. whatsoever. The testing is a little bit dodgy because there's different testing for the gay industry versus the hetero industry, and they're allowed to cross over. That doesn't make sense. So if you can take your own personal shit out of it, then you can actually make it safer for everyone else. I brought up the point that because we don't respect it or treat it seriously, that when there are copyright infringements and then all of these tube sites that are stealing content and then anyone can load stuff, you don't know what's actual abuse material versus what is licensed, belongs to a person, belongs to a company. So if you just had like these simple things that you require of mainstream for adult, you would actually be saving a lot of people.
That's the drug decriminalization argument, right? Like, if you decriminalize drugs, then you can standardize them. People can grow them. They can be tested. It's, that, and there's a solid argument to be had about that. And it's kind of, I don't believe in laws that people don't adhere to, right? The public, or at least there used to be, the public, these people were servants of the public, and they mm-hmm. were supposed to do what the public wanted. Now that's called populism, and it's anti-democracy somehow. The thing is happening, but the law is against it. Speed limits, 65 miles an hour. Everybody knows that means drive 75. Well, then the speed limit's not 65. You know what I'm saying? Then when you pull me over for going 66, I'm going to lose my shit. And they're like, well, you broke the speed limit. And I was like, did I though? Everybody fucking else did. And then that's where that harsh interaction comes, man. Selling weed. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's illegal. Is it though? Everybody I know smokes weed. Like, I don't. But...
yeah, that one still is wild, that there's some states that if you just have a joint on you can go to jail. That makes no sense to me.
And a billion people a day, or billions of people watch porn.
100, and for Pornhub specifically, it's 115 million people a day.
A day.
a day, but
That's
no one
almost
watches
as much
it.
as my site.
You've been really busy.
Oh, you bet.
Get after it, buddy. Which, speaking of,
No, but-
congratulations on 100,000 followers, man. That's a real big
Oh,
thing.
on YouTube?
On
Thank
YouTube,
you.
man.
Yes.
Especially with the content. They cannot, you are not algorithm friendly content.
Not at all.
No, that's great.
But yeah, in a year it wasn't too bad.
That's awesome,
So yeah, I'm excited about that. At least it's showing that it's going in a positive direction.
Oh, hell yeah, bro.
Yeah. So I don't know though. They're definitely not showing us to a lot of people.
That's 100,000 people searching you out specifically.
It seems that way. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome,
Yeah,
man. That's
yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, how you've been a guest on Normal World 2 times?
Twice, yeah.
Nice.
We'd like you back.
Anytime.
Yes.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the sketch situation? You guys doing more sketches?
No,
or what?
we need to.
Sketch.
We've done a
Yeah,
couple
count
of
me in
them.
for that too.
Yeah, that's what I want
She
to
did
do.
a great job as AOP.
Yes, she did.
I
man.
didn't have a lot.
Yeah, well,
It worked
the
out.
one you did, you nailed it.
Well, we have Derek Richards now playing Tim Walls,
phenomenal.
so we're working on for a Halloween episode.
Something about that guy freaks me out.
His
man.
own brother just came
Something
out
about
and was
that guy.
like,
It's
"Don't."
it's too fake. It's too much. So what's your intuition? You've got the best intuition maybe of anybody I've ever met. What's your intuition on Tim Waltz?
That's the guy running with Kamala, right?
That's right.
Yes.
It's interesting. I guess he's like super pro-abortion. Like that's like one of his main things. Like he all the way, which is kind of a red flag to me because I think that's kind of evil when you're like, there are no limits. I'm like, well, it's about to
They were
come
giving
out. It's
free
like, what?
abortions
It's
out at the
coming out.
DNC.
So that's
You
crazy.
see that?
What?
They were giving out free abortions at
To
the
me,
DNC.
that is
Yeah, in a
so
van.
absurd. That is so upside down. Because here's the thing: no matter where you stand on like pro-life, pro-choice, if you want to call it that, I say it's pro-abortion because that's what it is. These women, a lot of times that have the procedure done, are not okay after. Like there's a huge grieving process. They go through like this really deep darkness. You have a freaking like trailer that you're doing it in. Are you also providing the aftercare and mental health care after the fact? Are you following up with them? Is there any integration? Because to me, that is wildly irresponsible.
And the hormonal
Because you
shift
did-
to bring it full circle.
Because you didn't even, and
Yeah,
the hormones,
yeah.
because you didn't even, these women didn't make an appointment. Like they showed up, maybe they're in a vulnerable space, and because it's so accessible, we talk about like the problem with accessibility, especially when it comes to porn. What about the problem to accessibility to a trailer where they're going to just get rid of your baby because you're in a bad spot, right? So to me, that was like wildly reckless, no matter where you stand on the decision. Like that was just, that was insane. It was insane.
Yeah, but the dead predominantly vote Democrat though, so you know, got to get a few more.
And the thing too with that
voters.
topic that I don't understand is if you ask most of the women that are really like that decides their vote, it's you ask them if they've ever had one. Most of them say no. If you ask if they ever intend on having one or if there's like a situation where they would see it, most of them will say no. So they say yes and they're defending something that they don't even want themselves because someone else might need / want it. But it's like, well, who is this other person? Because everyone I talk to, it's like no. But for someone else, yes. So either they're lying when they say like they wouldn't, which is totally possible, or they're defending something that is like really not that important and there's other pressing issues that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to.
Well, that's the point of it that I don't get is how that became the only thing that matters to 60% of the voters in America.
It's a weird thing to obsess over.
Well, because it doesn't really, I mean, it does matter to a lot of people. But in the long run, when it comes to voting, it's a distraction.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all they need. They just need to put out there, okay, it's abortion, it's this, it's that.
Yeah.
It's this guy wants them to say you can hack them apart at 9 months pregnancy, this person. And it's easy. It's talking points. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's why Kamala the other night at the DNC, you know, we were watching it and it's like she did a great job because she didn't talk about any plan she has for the future. She didn't have to answer for any of her history. She didn't have to say any policy, anything. That's the best way to do it, but you have a room of people clapping when you've said nothing and there's no plan going forward.
Yeah, she's the reform candidate to an administration she is currently in.
Right.
I've never seen any like
But you're
this
saying I'm going to change, once I'm in office, it's like you're in office.
right now.
It's insane. You haven't done...
And these people are just like joy. It makes me actually angry. It makes me angry.
Sorry, the joy thing is
It's
hysterical to me.
joy.
There's joy, and you're like, there's not, though.
What are you talking about?
It's terrible.
You guys are just like, you guys are the least joyful humans. You guys tried to make comedy illegal.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to retcon themselves as we're the joy people. It's like, what? Mumford and Sons broke up because one guy didn't think like the others.
Yeah, you made a banjo player sad. Like, what kind of a monster, like, group of people? Like, he couldn't perform. The only guy who does it besides Steve Martin is because all of you threatened to kill his family.
Yeah.
Because he had, oh, by the way, because he said he read a book.
Yeah, he posted a book.
Yeah, he read a book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was his horrible sin.
Mm-hmm. And it was a Thomas Sowell book, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a black author, but
Right.
it's like the wrong kind of black.
Right. It's just, but yeah, they want to look at it as like an Uncle Tom as opposed to somebody who's a free thinker. And again, that's what books are for. It's your choice to take what you want from them. Getting somebody else's opinion. People didn't read. A lot of people read Mein Kampf. It wasn't because they were trying to get the recipe. It's because they wanted to see like what this was about.
Yeah.
Scholars. There's a reason it exists. But I think that's why it's brought up so much. And for me, I find it very strange for any guy to run around with this zero abortion policy. It's insane to me, as I think it's insane for somebody else to run around like there's no limits to this whatsoever. It's not. And I've gotten in a lot of shit on conservative podcasts, but it's like, you're going to tell me that somebody has to keep a rape baby, and I've won an argument on that, but it's the reality.
Probably cost you your job, eh?
Like, well, close. But the reality is like, okay, the whole idea is to defend this person that's all of a sudden inside them that they didn't necessarily want, and what that takes. It's like, well, what about that person? This wasn't a person who that had happened to them, who they had to deal with this, and now you want them to carry it out? And my whole argument was, I know a woman who had a baby who was brutally raped and didn't have the choice, but raised the child, doesn't know, and I think that's wonderful. It's a poster child for why you could keep the baby. But you know what? She would have liked to have the choice. And that matters more to me, that she has that choice, than it does that somebody else can just win an election by saying that they're for something. When really, at the end of the day, you can't control it. And people talk about it like, oh, you think there'll be back alley abortions, there'll be this. Yes, there will be. And then you go, well, it's only 0.01% of all of them. Okay, well, how many people is that?
Yeah.
Again, it's no longer about the individual. It's like, so you're still willing to kill off this many people for your opinion to supposedly save this many people. And I know it might sound confusing, but that's because the whole thing is confusing.
Well, no, it's the ultimate Kafka trap. There's no winning it. There's arguments to be made on both sides, and I'm like, oh, good point. No, good point. And it is. It's kind of like the absolutist of it. Well, it's murder. Versus the baby is victimless here. The baby didn't do anything to you. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of see it both ways, man.
But even when it's you're talking about a troubled pregnancy that they know is a high percentile of killing the mother, and now you're saying that they can't do anything about that.
Well, I don't think that's in any state. I think that's not true.
Is that not true?
Yeah,
I hope it's not.
No, that's a talking point to scare people, but there's never been like a point where there was like an ectopic pregnancy or one that was going to risk the mother's life.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Then I've only heard it as a talking point. So like I said, I hear stuff from both sides so much being on a news show that it's hard to decipher what's real or not.
No, yeah. That one, if it's medical reasons, that's legal.
And absolutely
everywhere.
should be.
You should be, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad that is.
Yeah. Well, we're almost at 2 hours.
All right, let's wrap her up.
Do you want to pitch away, like where people can follow you, support you?
You can watch my show Normal World on YouTube or Blaze TV. Subscribe using the code NORMAL. You can get a heck of a discount. It's brought to you by... No, I'm just,
out of all the things we're going to bleep out in this episode, that's going to be the one.
I know that's going to be the one that has to go.
Out.
I didn't know you had a gambling sponsor. I apologize.
No, I don't give a shit.
Also, you can check out.
They know who I am.
Yeah,
they made their decision.
Right, they made a choice. I personally don't have a gambling sponsor. It's just my morals. But you can also go to DaveLandau.com. You can see me at upcoming tour dates. That's about it. I don't really have much more to promote than that.
Dave, you are the man. Thank you so much for taking some time, man.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
really
and thanks
cool.
for letting us come see you yesterday. It was so fun.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bridget was great. We love you, Bridget. Thank you.
Yeah,
you were
thank
really
you,
cool.
Bridge.
Make sure you follow these folks, man. And thanks for this cool studio we have here in Austin on the road. The Chatting with Candice, Gerard versus Michaels Scissorsode.